Good afternoon, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I've been waiting for this show for a number of weeks. I've been able to book Mr. George Dunn. And George is the founder and CEO of Create Inc. And they are independent consultants. I call George the king of process. When you understand what he has been able to put together with his firm, the types of companies that he works with, and he's got a list of companies that are name brand companies. He's really a powerhouse. He understands advanced technology. He understands digital transformation and how process and digital transformation can be combined and fused together to make a powerhouse combination for the companies he works with. George, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on the Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
You're welcome. Thank you, Andy, for inviting me.
Obviously, you have this certain lens that you look at businesses through. You really believe that there's a huge opportunity for CEOs to sort of start thinking about transforming their companies through process and really advanced technology. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit, because it looks to me, based on what you've told me prior to the interview, that there's a huge opportunity for CEOs right now.
Yeah, and we're fortunate that we're a unique consulting company. We're a boutique firm, but we're all from the large, big consulting companies. So we charge half the rates and give them twice the value. Clients don't mind that. But we've been fortunate to work across all industries. And so when I speak about this, we've worked with, international banks. We've worked with domestic international law firms, insurance companies, medical manufacturing equipment, government, transportation companies, you name it, cancer research. And so we get called into all of these. And one of the challenges with technology can take years to properly implement it, because we end up doing it the wrong way first. We toss it out there. We have citizen developers, group developers, and let's just see if it works. Well, at the end of the day, that technology costs money. It impacts your process. So what we find, if we can take a step back, Andy, and look at the process, and one of the things just to share with you we've been doing, just to take away for our viewers, is process inventories. So we're going into organizations, starting with the enterprise. We talk to the chiefs. We get into each department, we go to the work groups, and we ask them, what are your top 6 to 10 processes? And we do an FTE allocation. What's the labor cost? How's that process work in terms of quality, efficiency, customer service, liability to the organization? So we have a 15-point checklist we go through. We score it all. And coming out of that, we have 2 things. One is for the CTO, if we're looking at a specific technology, what's the roadmap? Or most importantly, combination of technologies. But for the CEO, is they get for the first time a process level cost of what's happening in the organization. And when we do the roll-up, combining all the FTE counts, because typically CEOs can see what's my cost per department or group, but they cannot look under the hood and say, what's my cost for my individual processes, and how do they all chain together into enterprise-wide or cross-functional processes? So there's a lot of value of that. And then we look at the process before the technology, and I can talk a little bit about some things we look at there if you'd like.
George, that's really unbelievable. You help organizations plan for process improvement, workflow, ECM, paperless technologies. You do information governance and complex computer systems, of course, and changing the entire system, the replacement of the complex systems. So when we think about the types of companies that reach out to you, George, who's reaching out to George Dunn and saying, hey, George, I need some powerful assistance. What can you do to help me out?
Right. Well, typically on the process side, there's an organizational problem. And unfortunately, it's gotten to a point that it's a real problem. It could be a letter from the regulators. It could be a union issue. It could be the people are having heart attacks in the organization because they're working so hard. So there's stress on them, especially when we hit peak times. And so a lot of this is there's an organizational problem. Is there a better way to work? Do we need to get something ready? And we then react very quickly on that side. We can do our enterprise-wide studies within a matter of months. We can focus on a specific process, map it out, and we use a variety of process improvement methods, Lean, Six Sigma, BPM, We've actually simplified them into the secret method. I can tell you about that. On the technology side, Andy, CTOs are looking at this technology and saying, you know what, I'm tired of try and buy. I'm trying it because I need to budget, and I need to have a sustainable budget if I'm going to do something right. So they come to us, for example, digital workflow. What is it? How can I use it? Robotic process automation. Sounds like a scary term. What do we do with it? And so we help describe the technologies, talk about what the value is. We basically are rubber meet the road consultants, and then we will do the process workflow assessment, prove it out, do the application design requirements, and then test that against the technologies they have in-house, or put together an RFP and help them find the vendor or integrator. So there's a lot of value in that because they're new to this technology and they want to know what is it going to do for them, and is there a return on investment?
That makes all the sense in the world, George. Create serves national and international organizations in almost every industry sector. Very interesting. You've helped out Fortune 100 companies. You help out the government, a lot of privately held companies. You really conduct process improvement and technology planning projects at the enterprise level, the department level, and the work group level, and you do it for worldwide organizations. So what's going to be the big change? What's going to be the big shift? I know I look at you as somewhat of a shapeshifter, someone that's a zeitgeist, someone that really has a good pulse on what's happening internationally. What's going to happen with process and technology in the future?
The opportunities are endless for organizations that really want to take advantage of it. We are in the beginnings of a huge transformation. We can listen and also help people get to where they go and appreciate what they're doing. We give certificates. We let the teams present forward to the chiefs what they've come up with. So what happens is the change management resistance is gone down through this. So I think we're in a time of great opportunity. Ones that have done this, they've gotten promoted 3-4 levels over the years. It's so exciting to go back and talk to them. They were director, now they're CEO of the company. So I'm excited.
I love it, George. And you've helped so many large companies. You've helped so many people and so many organizations with their process and their digital transformation. You speak to real super important people, CEOs of major companies, and of course, their C-level executives as well. And something that comes to mind, George, is what are the big questions when they come to you and they say, George, I've got a big problem, and I need some help. What are the big problems?
How do I create a flexible model for my organization that will allow me to expand and contract, both from a cost standpoint, but also from a technology standpoint? And because I have to have a plan. How do we reduce friction? How do we, get our products and services out the door? And so those are the questions then. And so I think it's really important that this planning model, and again, if we take a process level perspective, the question is, Andy, what does the process need to have happen? Not this nifty technology, not let's just talk about and do some high level diagramming, but what does it need in terms of quality, efficiency, service? And also, what are the innovation opportunities? Where can we just blow the doors off of this? But see, organizations have limited time, resources, and dollars. So we want to focus on this. Is it a repeatable process that everybody does day to day? Is it a group process? Is it a cross-functional process? So having a plan of where to focus your time, resources, technology is extremely important. And so that's what they're asking for. And we're ready to help them out because we've done hundreds of these studies. We're just excited that they're even more excited to do them. And they happen very quickly. We're done in an enterprise study, 2 months, 2.5, 3 months.
Wow, that's incredible, George. And you talk about the flexible model. It makes all the sense in the world. And what I really love about what you do for all the international companies that you work with is, you work directly with them. In other words, you don't sell really or represent any technology solution in particular. And this allows you to provide a real independent voice to help organizations plan and evaluate for process improvement. And of course, advanced technology information systems. So this is really, really remarkable. When we think about complex computer systems and we talk about sort of replacement options for those, how difficult is it for a large company to start thinking about replacing a complex computer system with one that's going to be perhaps more flexible and a better fit for their organization?
Well, the key word is when we use the word replace. We don't want to use that word. We do not want to replace an existing computer system. There's the old story, the organization spent $5 million on a new computer system. Then they spent $5 million to make it work like the old computer system when the old computer system didn't work. The business rules, and it doesn't matter, Andy, whether we're talking about a Fortune 100 company or a mom and pop trucking company down the street. We've got a lot of middle market companies out there with 500 to 1,000 employees. If we're going to get a new computer system, we need to say, what are our business rules we need to support over the next 5 years? If we produce something for $10 and get it to them in 10 days, but the customer wants it in 3 days for $3, we have to re-engineer the process. We cannot just replace the system. We have to say, what are our business rules going forward? And you know what? The vendors have got great ideas. They're great people, but they don't know. They just implement. They're not going to say, we're going to come up with a unique proposition for you that's different than their other clients. You have to come up with that as your organization. What are our guiding principles? Where do we want to be 5 years from now in terms of labor costs, in terms of quality, in terms of, a simple example is a new computer system comes in and takes 20 keystrokes to do something, right? How about it takes 5? How about it abstracts information from other systems? How about we use digital workflow or robotic process automation to automate between systems? So, and the thing is, it's not one technology anymore. It's combinations of technologies we have to look at. So that process plan I talk about, which is flexible, needs to be a framework also that we can keep adding technologies in and keep adjusting this model. And so, because we've already gone to the users, let's not have to go back to them again, right? They're busy and they keep adding on. So that's what we're seeing and what we're helping out with. Yeah.
I love it, George. It's unbelievable. You also do online education and certification. You have an expertise in Agile, of course, BPM, project management, PMP, Lean, you name it, Six Sigma. It's really, really incredible. When we think about process improvement and planning a project, George, which group of people inside the organization are you typically working with? Which level of executives or which level of the group that you particularly work with once you've been hired on to give this incredible consulting that you've become known for?
Well, typically the directors or C-suite will reach out to us. That's important because they have the sign-in authority, and we want to get paid. So that's important. And in fact, we have a great track record, always gotten paid. Now, of course, I'm a former world champion wrestler, but never had to use that. So but we're fortunate they like our services. But typically what we want to do then is really get in the heads of the directors, where are their issues, what would they like to do? And then we want to work with the groups. Look, that's the heartbeat of the organization. And these people and these folks are working so hard and they've been there for years and they've got so much great information, but nobody asked them. And so we have a framework we take them through, and we also inspire and say, let's think about, and Andy, when we, after the process inventories and we do the detailed process mapping, I just love to watch that light bulb come on. I can kind of see it in the process, but it's like, well, what's stressing you out? We'll write that all in red. What kind of ideas do you have? And what we find too, a lot of times the issue with the process is what's happening before they got the information. It's incorrect, it's the timeliness, the accuracy is wrong, and they're struggling to fix everything. So in the process mapping, we really get into the knowledge, get all the cards on the table, and then we'll work with them on the procedural changes and change action plan. And I'm finding out they're rolling out those changes before the project's over. They're checking it off. They're running with it. So it's so exciting. And then our next level redesign is the technology, because we need to clean that process up first. with the people that do the work. But guess what? I chase those directors down and even the CEO and say, why don't you stop by the meeting? We'd like to see you. Let the employees know you're supporting these efforts. And also the directors, I don't want it to go too far. I want them to touch base. So, and guess what? They come to the meetings, but I say, you got to be quiet. I need you to be quiet. We got to listen. And so, and that again, the value of an independent consultant is we can help out with this. And then on the technology side, we work with IT. Now, IT loves these process maps. Andy, they've never seen these process maps. They're guessing what to do. And then they get slapped because they didn't do what the users wanted. And so by doing the process maps and the workflow maps, now we're saying we've got a framework for a design. And now let's talk about all the other components to create a strong conceptual application design. And now when we sit down with the vendors or the IT developers, we've really got some information for them and they can dig into it. And the vendors love it. They're just like, because they're guessing too. And if everybody's guessing, it's called a change order, Andy, because it's like being in a cab without knowing where you want to go. The meter keeps running. So by having this conceptual application design, the workflow maps, we're having great discussions with internal IT. And guess who comes to the meeting too? The CFO, because he or she's saying, well, what's the return on investment? And I'm a former KPMG person myself, a CPA, so we calculate it. And so the good vendors really like it because guess what? The project's budgeted. Our organizations are budgeting between $500,000 and $15 to $20 million on projects they know are going to really help them because the groundwork's been done. And the vendors, they can get in and sell and they can close and they can do their work. So it's exciting to be part of it when we do it right the first time.
I love it, George. Obviously your passion for process and organizational improvement comes through in a big way, which is why you're one of the leaders in the space. George, you mentioned that you were a world-class wrestler, and I want to turn the conversation with the amount of time we have left. And by the way, thank you so much for slicing out some time out of your very busy day to talk to us on the Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. But let's talk about what someone can learn from sports in the entrepreneurial space. In other words, there's probably some things as you built your business that you learned through sports and athletics and competing. So maybe you could touch on that a little bit for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show so they can understand that when you really get into the business world, it really is a competition. And maybe if you had some competition, in your life, that would transfer over into the business world.
Right. And it's funny because in high school, I was, state placer, national placer. And then I took a break for 15 years because I had to get my CPA and management consulting background. And so when my son was 6, he needed wrestling. So I signed him up. Well, I got back into it too. And the coach said, you want to wrestle? I said, I'm 35. I'm too old. He says, I got a second class. It's the college kids, the high school kids, and the wrestling dads. You can go into that class. But what I didn't know about this coach, he was a national champion. He wrestled for to be on the U.S. Olympic team, and he was about my size. And so he made a deal with me. He says, if you hang in there with me, and I'm going to teach everything. He says, I'm going to beat you up. And so So I did all the tournaments, took state championship. And there's nothing like a 5-minute round with no rest break when you're wrestling against a 23-year-old Marine. So the point is that, winning national, state championship, nationals, and then I was invited to be on the world team, the Masters world team. The number one thing is to give us a fresh mind the next day. We really, exercise is so important, but when you're having to learn something else with all the different moves and wrestling's like a chess game, except if you don't do it right, you get whacked in the head. So, so learning how to do something, preparing, having a coach and hearing that coach's voice. When I stepped out there and wrestled the Belarusians from Belarus or the Iranians or the top wrestlers in the world, the crowds were screaming, but I could hear that coach's voice. And knowing how to turn on a dime in the middle of a wrestling match, a freestyle wrestling match, is very important for business. Andy, a lot of organizations get in trouble because they do not react quickly enough. We don't know the future, but we have a sense something's happening. through different things. So we have to react. I have a lot of CEOs that give me a call and say, hey, George, can you and your team just go talk to, Sam over here or Julie, just even kind of help them out and just, so it's going. So that kind of being able to instinctually react is really important. And I'm proud to say I ended up taking third place in the world in Budapest, the United States. Only got one black eye. And so it was quite a journey. Then I retired. I figured I did my 15 years and went on and got into singing. So it was a little less dangerous, but those are the things I learned. I think it's important for people to have very challenging extracurricular activities because it all comes back in the mix.
I love it, George. And so we can add world champion wrestler, wrestling dad to the list of things you do. You're a singer. I want to just thank you so much for coming on the show today. When you have someone like yourself that's a leader in the field of process combined with advanced technology and digital transformation, it's very interesting. You've worked with some of the leading companies in the world, and I know that we can't really mention who they are, but for those people that want someone to come in and assist and help and make sure that the ROI gets met and that they get the leading expert, George is really one of the people that you want to speak with regard to that. He's dynamic. He really gets it done. He's got the great background and experience and the chops. He's been at it for a number of years. He started with some other consulting firms and then started his own burgeoning firm. It's absolutely amazing. George, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today. I mean, this has been something I've been waiting for, and you're absolutely a true delight.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate the opportunity, and thanks again. Thanks for letting me share.